When Russia turns the gas valve and the United States raises a tariff, the impact doesn't stay on a distant chart. It shows up in the price of bread, in the cost of a tank of gas, in the freight bill that moves your groceries, and even in your credit card interest. It feels far away. Isente. Today we'll connect each dot, Russia tariffs, supply chains, and show how they reshape global trade and your cost of living. We'll also face the hard question. Why take this risky policy bet when it has worked before and when it has failed? No cheerleading, just analysis. Because when geopolitics moves, your wallet feels it. For decades, the rule was simple. Make things where it's cheapest. Sell them where prices are highest. Then the world stretched its supply chains too far. A pandemic pulled at the seams. War, sanctions, and export controls tugged harder. Suddenly security mattered more than lowest cost. Companies and governments started paying a peace of mind premium, a little more today, to avoid a breakdown tomorrow. That's why you keep hearing about nearshoring, friendshoring, and different labels. Same idea, shorten routes, reduce risk. There are three pieces that change your final price. First, energy, oil, gas, electricity. Nothing moves without it. Second, tariffs. Not just taxes, but a country saying, inside my market, we play by my rules. Third, supply chains. The path from raw input to your shelf. Change the energy price. Freight changes. Change the tariff. Routes change. Change the route. Factories move. Move all three at once. And the price you pay will move to Flashback 1. Energy as a weapon. 1973. The OPEC oil shock. The barrel price spikes. Americans line up at gas stations. Inflation jumps. Interest rates follow. Recession bites. The lesson. Expensive energy contaminates everything. Transport, fertilizer, food, industry. Today isn't the 1970s, but it rhymes. Russia, Europe's gas, sanctions, uncertainty. Even when flows continue, the risk premium lifts prices. If energy moves, everything else moves. Flashback to tariffs as a lead. 2018 to 2019. The U.S. levies duties on steel, aluminum, and tech components. At first, it looks like a narrow trade spat. Soon, it's obvious. Tariffs are bargaining chips. Want access to $1 trillion market. Play by our rules. Firms redraw maps. They add plants in friendly countries. Costs rise in the short run. But bargaining power rises too. Now the scope is broader. Chips, batteries, critical minerals, and sometimes consumer goods. Anything strategic to shift leverage. This leads to a globalization with guardrails. We're still connected, just not at lowest cost at any cost. There's a new tool. Resilience. Companies accept slightly thinner margins in exchange for predictability. Governments accept industrial incentives in exchange for strategic autonomy. Yes, that can nudge prices up now, but the bet is fewer shocks later. It is like buying insurance. You pay so you don't break when the next storm hits. Now the heart of the video. The risky maneuver. Why would a government choose this path? First, national security. In chips, batteries, and defense. Relying on rivals is a risk that no longer fits the model. Second, factories pool suppliers pool services pool R&D. Third, geopolitical bargaining. Tariffs become cards on the table to open markets and shift behavior. Fourth, domestic politics. Industrial jobs matter in pivotal states and anchor local economies. When it works, why it works? Because promised money turns into real capex. Land purchased, plants built, lines installed, workers trained. Because shorter chains reduce delays and make delivery times predictable. Because strategic sectors gain local scale and stop living on exceptions. Because U.S. market access becomes a prize align. rules and security get priority lanes because R&D lives next to the factory. So applied innovation accelerates fewer slides, more bolts. When it fails, why it fails. Because higher import costs feed stubborn inflation and central banks raise interest rates. Because retaliation abroad hits your exporters. Because trade diversion grows. Goods loop through third countries, raising costs without bringing factories home. Because allies tire of the bill and coordination phrase. Because fiscal fatigue sets and subsidies are hard to turn off. Bottom line. Without execution and coalition, a tariff is just an expensive tax. With both, it can be a strategic leap. Quick note, this is a technical analysis, not a team jersey. Whoever is in office, we hope for the best for the country. More jobs, less volatility, safer supply chains. Flashback 3. When tariffs boom 1930, the Smoot-Hawley tariff. Goal: protect American jobs. Outcome: tip for retaliation. Global trade shrank. The downturn deepened. The takeaway: tariffs without a coalition invite isolation. Today, policymakers are attempting the coalition version, aligning rules, sensing incentives, sharing risk. No guarantee of success, but it reduces the chance of a boomerang. So who wins and who loses? Realistically, potential winners: strategic industries with steady demand, chips, batteries, defense, friendly neighbors with preferential access to the U.S. market, companies that diversify suppliers and inventories early, skilled workers in the new industrial hubs, likely short-term losers, consumers facing price pressure, exporters targeted by retaliation, countries on the fence that lose priority access, businesses locked into cheap imports and long lead times. Rule of thumb: reposition early to earn preference. Wait too long, and you absorb the costs. Where does the bill show up for you? When fuel rises, freight rises. When fertilizer rises, food follows. When routes change, lead times stretch, and inventory becomes insurance. Price tags don't jump in a day, but they drift up. Central banks track core inflation, the sticky kind that signals pass through. If it won't fall, rates go higher. Your card feels it. Your loan feels it. Your employer delays a project. Decisions made thousands of miles away end up on your receipt. When geopolitics moves, your wallet feels it. How do you tell if this bet is working? Watch 10 signals: oil and inventories. Do they stabilize? Allies, Europe, Japan, Mexico, aligning or pushing back. Capex to factory floor. Do announcements become machines and paychecks? Core inflation is the pass-through fading. Retaliation, multiplying or losing steam. Trade diversion, growing through third countries or shrinking under clearer rules. Winning hubs. Is Mexico or Vietnam absorbing real production? Productivity. Are clusters improving with R&D next to manufacturing? Fiscal health incentive fit the budget without gutting. Industrial jobs are real openings appearing where plants were promised. More, yes. More traction. Mori no. Higher political and economic costs. 2 stories from history. And 1 choice now. In the first, energy becomes a weapon and everyone pays. The 1970s. In the second, tariffs boomerang and the response worsens the slump. The 1930s, there's also a third path: coalition plus real investment and patient execution. That's what separates an expensive tax from a strategic leap. We're in the middle of that curve right now. Here, we explain with data and context. No labels, no shouting. And we'll say it plainly. Whoever is in charge, we hope for the best for our country. More jobs, fewer shocks, stronger, safer supply chains. If this made sense, drop a like, share it with someone who only sees the price tag and never the world map. And we, LL, see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.